The ultimate betrayal. My husband, my son's girlfriend. This dark secret's my world crumbled when I discovered my husband was having an affair with my son's 18-year-old girlfriend. What I uncovered next were his truly disturbing secrets. Protect everyone involved, I'm using fake names. I'm a 41-year-old stay-at-home mom. My husband, Paul, 48, works in finance. We've been married for almost 20 years and have two incredible kids, Eric, our 18-year-old son who's a high school senior, and Mary, our 15-year-old daughter. They are the absolute lights of my life. Over the years, our marriage had grown a bit stale. For various reasons, like Paul's demanding work schedule and my own feelings about how I've aged since we first met. Our son, Eric, has been dating Amy since they were freshmen in high school. Eric absolutely adores Amy. It's his first love, and I've always considered her part of our family. This makes the entire situation incredibly painful for me. Last week, I accidentally saw my husband's phone screen and caught a glimpse of a text message between him and Amy, our son's girlfriend. What I read was a message from her saying she misses eating his sausage. I froze, utterly shocked. I spent most of the day trying to convince myself I'd misread it, but I hadn't. Over the next few days, I found a file on his computer filled with tons of BDSM porn. He clearly has a porn addiction. He'd also saved photos of Amy from her Instagram on his computer. Well, they weren't inappropriate, and she was fully clothed. It was the confirmation I needed. I wasn't going crazy. I also looked at his phone during opportune moments and saw more of their conversations. I wish I'd never looked. The way I saw it was purely by chance. He was on his phone, and while my message wasn't open on the screen, the application was still running. You know how on an iPhone, when you swipe up, it shows all your open apps? He was compulsively closing out applications. I noticed it. It wasn't like he was a complete idiot leaving messages open for anyone to see. He just forgot the app was running when he swiped up from a different one. When I first stumbled upon the messages between Paul and Amy, it felt like a punch to the gut. I remember sitting there, my hands trembling as I held his phone. The screen lit up with words that felt like slashes across my heart. It wasn't just the shock of betrayal. It was how they spoke about me. Paul had taken the insecurities I confided in him and turned them into cruel jokes for his amusement with Amy. Their messages were filled with horrible things said at my expense. With him constantly comparing me to her, he'd call me fat and old, among other things. Amy's messages were sprinkled with emojis and LOLs, a casual cruelty that made my stomach churn in one exchange. He'd written, "Can you believe she tried to wear that dress last night?" Looked like a sausage trying to burst its casing. Amy replied with a string of laughing emojis and added, "She's so old, she probably thinks it's still in style." It wasn't just comments about my looks. It talked about my intelligence, my interests, the way I talked. I saw words like boring, dull, and predictable used to describe the life I lived, the life I had built with him. Each message felt like it was erasing the love and respect I thought we had shared for nearly 2 decades at one point. I read a message from him that said, "At least you're fun. Being with her is like living in slow motion." Amy had replied, "Lo, you need someone who can keep up with you, not slow you down." It was as if I wasn't even a person to them, just an obstacle to joke about as they continued whatever this was. Sitting there with each message, I felt myself shrinking, becoming smaller and more insignificant. These weren't just idle words. They were a window into how little I meant to the person who was supposed to love me most. And Amy, a girl I had mentored, laughed along with him, bonding over the ridicule they piled on me. The betrayal wasn't just his. It was hers too, a double-edged sword cutting deep. I remember closing the app, the screen going dark, and looking up at our family photos on the wall. The contrast between the smiling, happy faces in those pictures and the scorn in those messages was overwhelming. It was in that moment, surrounded by the echoes of their laughter, that I realized the man I married was not the man smiling in those pictures. And I was left wondering how many times they had shared a laugh at my expense. How many times my pain had been their punchline. I've always had hunches or paranoid feelings that Paul was cheating, but never in a million years could I have imagined something like this. Last month, I found a thong in our bedroom that wasn't mine or my daughter's. I ignored it, being naive and acting like it was maybe my daughter's, even though that made zero sense. Not only is he cheating on me, but he's betraying our son. I'm completely devastated. I don't even think words can adequately describe the dread, anger, and shock I feel right now. I'm totally overwhelmed about how to handle this because action obviously needs to be taken, but I'm terrified of what kind of psychological blow this will be for my son. I have no idea how to even broach this incredibly difficult topic with him. I wouldn't wish this predicament on my worst enemy. I can't even believe I married this scumbag in the first place. Then my mind started to race. I realized I started noticing his unusual behavior around the same time Amy turned 18. She's been 18 for 5 months now. I haven't been able to figure out when their affair started. I'm trying my hardest, too. He deletes his texts every couple of weeks, it seems. So I haven't been able to pinpoint when this whole thing began. Was he waiting for her to turn 18 before pursuing this affair? There are so many layers to all of this, and I'm completely paralyzed with fear and dread. None of it makes any sense. How did this happen? Am I such an idiot that I let all of this happen under my watch? Eric adores Amy, and the thought of revealing this sickening truth to him terrifies me. The impact on his young heart and mind could be devastating. My heart aches for Eric and Mary, who are completely innocent bystanders. I haven't confronted my husband about this because I'm frankly scared of the domino effect. I don't know who to turn to first. I'm sharing my story not for sympathy, but in search of understanding and perhaps advice from those who might have had to grapple with deep betrayal. Thank you for listening. Update 1. Thank you everyone for the overwhelming support. I'm sorry if I haven't responded to your private messages. I'll get to them when I can. I'm dealing with a lot right now and taking many necessary steps. I'm trying to be smart and strategic in this truly surreal and terrible situation. I want to be clear that not telling my son was never an option I considered. I didn't mean to make it seem that way. It's just saying I'm intensely dreading it, but it obviously needs to be addressed. It's one part of the many steps in my overall plan. I'm currently playing dumb and collecting as much evidence as I can so I can be prepared for anything. I'm going to protect myself and ensure I don't put myself in any potential harm's way. I'll post a more thorough update soon when I can. But please know you've all touched my heart so much and made me feel less alone. Update to my brother connected me to a very tough junkyard dog-type lawyer. I saved screenshots of all his conversations with Amy. I was only able to get the last 3 months from iCloud. The conversations were mostly flirty and dirty talk. It was hard to stomach. Completely sleazy, and I saw several negative things said about me. His call history showed he talks with her for hours, pretty consistently. He uses dating apps. Took screenshots of his profiles and all of his active chats with his matches. It's very clear he uses a filter to seek out girls who are 18 to 22 or so. I copied all his files from the computer. He goes on sex chat rooms and forums, and he spends a ton of money on OnlyFans. I rummaged through every possible hiding spot I could think of in the house. He had various toys, blindfolds, cuffs, lubricants, etc. He also had different outfits that looked kind of like a girl's. Catholic school uniform and a French-maid type outfit too. I picked up Eric and Mary from school. We all drove to my brother's. They could sense something was wrong when I picked them up. I delicately told them the entire situation, and I broke down crying. Mary had the most anger, even more than Eric. I met with Amy's mother and told her everything. She confiscated Amy's phone and gave me the entire chat log. It only dated back 3 months, like on my husband's cloud, almost as if they both deleted the messages at the same time. She told me Amy sobbed when confronted. Amy basically told her mother that she will never understand and that she and him are in love. I don't want to get into too many details about what else she was saying, but suffice it to say, it's very easy to assume that my husband slowly and methodically became a sage-like figure in her life, making her feel she could rely on him, and he took advantage of the fact that she came from a broken home. Amy is also non-stop insistent that their friendship only became romantic and physical recently. And before that, she said he was more of a friend and mentor. I confronted Paul over Zoom. The moment I hit join on the Zoom call, my heart was hammering in my chest. It could barely hold the mouse steady. As soon as Paul's face popped up on the screen, I knew this wasn't going to be a calm discussion. His face was flushed, his hair disheveled, as if he'd been running his hands through it all morning. And his eyes, they were wild, darting around before they locked onto the camera. The look on his face was scary, became red and looked so sweaty. He had anger and panic in his eyes. His tone of voice was very defensive and frightening. I started off trying to keep my voice steady. "Paul, we need to talk about what's been going on." Before I could even get another word out, he cut me off. "Context. You don't understand the context," he blurted out, his voice loud and shaky. He kept repeating the word like a mantra, but never explained what he meant by it. His hands were visibly shaken, gripping what looked like a stack of papers on his desk. "I've seen the messages, Paul. Between you and Amy," I continued, trying to keep the accusation out of my voice, hoping to keep him calm. But it was like I'd lit a fuse. None of that happened. "You're making things up?" he shouted, his face now a deep shade of red. His voice was so loud I had to pull the laptop slightly away from me. It was frightening to see him like this, so unhinged. He was not the man I thought I knew. I tried to reason with him. "Paul, I have screenshots. I've seen everything. Please, we need to discuss how we're going to handle this situation with the kids." He slammed his fist on the desk, making the camera shake. "You have no right to take my kids away from me. You're trying to ruin everything." His tone was accusatory, and each word felt like a verbal assault. I remained where I was, my own hands now trembling. "Paul, you need to calm down. You need to figure out a way, too." "I don't need to calm down. You're the one who is overreacting. You're the one who's destroying our family." His words were almost a growl now, his face so close to the camera that I could see beads of sweat on his forehead. It was then that the real fear set in. The intensity in his eyes, the anger in his voice, it all pointed to a man who was losing control. I realized I wasn't just dealing with infidelity, but with someone who could potentially be a danger to me and the other kids. His demeanor was threatening, almost as if he was right there in the room with me, ready to explode. He kept yelling the word context over and over again, and that none of that happened. He was unable to speak without constant stutters and intensity. Nothing really made any sense to me. I refused to tell him where I was, and he said I had no right to take his kids away from him. "I'm ending this call, Paul. We will talk later when you're able to discuss this calmly," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "You can't just hang up on me.
Ow.
You can't just..." But I didn't wait to hear the rest. I ended the call, my heart pounding in my ears. And then he abruptly left the Zoom, sitting there, staring at the blank screen. I knew that this was far more serious than I had initially thought. His reaction was not just defensive, but it was volatile. I picked up my phone immediately and called my lawyer, explaining the urgency and the need for a restraining order. The level of aggression he'd shown was enough proof that I needed to protect myself and my kids. That call was supposed to be about confrontation and truth, but it turned into a chilling revelation of the depth of Paul's anger and instability. It was clear that this wasn't just about heartbreak or betrayal anymore. It was about safety. My lawyer is filing for temporary sole custody of Mary and a restraining order. Mary is still the most angry. She's totally furious with her dad and Amy, justifiably so, of course. Mary's recollecting moments and times she watched her dad interact with her friends, and she's in knots about it. Eric is very clearly hurting, but he's so strong and very level-headed. He wants to see a therapist. The maturity my kids are showing makes me proud. They don't deserve this at all. Eric hasn't spoken to Amy yet since finding out the news, and I'm not sure if he ever will again. Both my son and I are going to get tested and checked out as well. There's no telling how many different women he's been sleeping around with. As for Amy, her mom has been in contact with me, and Amy has been threatening to run away with him because they are in love. We made the authorities aware of everything. I plan on being completely unforgiving and ruthless in this divorce. I'm reflecting on how I've been treated and how it's made me a shell of myself, and how I've had a very negative opinion of myself because of him over the last 20 years. I don't want to let this scumbag get away with it. I want to reinvent myself and move on, stronger than ever. Update 3. Thank you again for all the love and encouragement. It gives me comfort and means so much to me. Sadly, I've received a lot of negative, accusatory, harassing private messages from people here who think I'm faking this story. Someone made a comment on some post somewhere claiming that my story has been debunked and people believe that person. I've seen an uptick in negative messages accusing me of making this up for money. I'm not asking for money at all. Coming here was completely rooted in emotional desperation, and I didn't expect anyone to get invested in my story this way. But again, I'm not looking for anything out of this. I have no reason to lie. I'm not gaining anything from this. Don't believe me? That's fine. I don't care. But the only thing I ask is not to cross the line and start sending me private messages that are mean-spirited or accusatory. The only reason I'm continuing to post is because of those of you who've sent me love here, and the support really lifted my spirits. As for the divorce, it's very much underway. I'm not going to get into the specifics of it all, because it's ongoing, and I want to make sure everything goes smoothly. I got temporary custody of Mary. Paul also has to pay temporary child support. There's a protective order. Paul can't contact us or come near us right now. We're just focusing on getting through this legal mess. Again, not getting into specifics because I don't want to mess anything up. What I'll say is I'm very confident, divorce aside, that there's overwhelming evidence against Paul that will get him in serious trouble, and it will impact him for the rest of his life. I'm sure eventually I can share more about that. I know a lot of people are concerned about his predatory ways, and I just wanted to convey this. Even though I have to be vague right now, justice will come. All of your concern about how my kids are doing psychologically means a lot to me. Eric has been to therapy twice over the last 2 weeks. I know some people thought I was dismissive of him and acting like he's doing okay. I very much know that he's hurting internally, and we're doing everything we can to make sure he knows he is supported and loved. My brother has been amazing in spending time with Eric and Mary, and both of them have confided in him about a lot. My brother has a very healthy marriage, and both he and his wife have really stepped up to the plate for all of us. Mary has not seen a therapist yet, but she promises that she will be open to seeing one soon. Her anger has mostly turned into sadness, I've noticed, and I hope I can get her to see a therapist soon. Her friends have played a key role in this whole thing. That's something that Mary has been grappling with as well. I know a lot of people are invested in the well-being of Amy as well. There were a lot of questions about whether Eric and Amy would still see each other at school. It sounded like they'd go to the same school, but they do not. Eric and Amy went to the same junior high school and knew each other even then, but Amy ended up going to an all-girls Catholic high school. While Eric and Mary stayed in the public school system, we all lived in the same town, and over the summer, heading into freshman year is when they were getting to know each other and when they started dating. I wish I had a better Amy update, but it's gotten a lot worse since the last update. After everything blew up, Paul has actually been seeing Amy, despite her mother trying to force her not to see him. She tells me that Amy says she's 18 and an adult, and she can do what she wants. Amy thinks she's grown, her mother confided to me just yesterday, her voice laced with frustration and worry. She keeps telling me she's 18 and an adult, and she can make her own decisions. Her voice sounded exhausted, trapped in an impossible situation. Amy's mother is in a precarious spot because if she kicks Amy out of the house for defying her something that she has threatened to do, which I think is a mistake she would just run to, Paul permanently. The time she spends with Paul has increased over the last week. Despite the fact that Paul initially ghosted her when all of this first hit the fan, there were some days where Amy would just be gone for hours on end. Her mother tried grounding her, taking away her car keys, even limiting her phone use, but Amy found ways around every barrier. She's sneaking out at night, her mother told me, her voice breaking. I wake up at 3 a.m. and her room is empty. She won't tell me where she's been, but I just know it's with him. I can't help but feel a mix of anger and sorrow for Amy. She's caught in this toxic cycle, believing she's in a relationship when it's clear she's being used. Paul has not changed. His patterns are the same, only the target has shifted. The worst part is feeling so helpless about it all. I've suggested therapy, talked about getting her professional help, but Amy is stubborn, blinded by what she thinks is love. It's heartbreaking and infuriating at the same time. There's only so much I can do with the Amy situation, but again, I do believe things will turn around soon with that, given what I know about Paul and what's to come. I can only pray that Amy can get help and guidance when more hits the fan. I'm doing everything I can with my own kids and my own mental health, and Amy's mom knows she has my support, and that's all I could really provide.